Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of Ambush on Air. I'm your host, Sam Bush, and I am thrilled to bring you a really fun topic today that we feel is not discussed enough as it should be, and that is domain authority and really how it is used across ERP channels. So, as always, I'm your host, Sam Bush. I am a B2B marketer in the ERP and specifically Microsoft, Acumatica, and NetSuite channels. Come to you with about 15 years of marketing experience and love bringing you topics that are maybe looked over or topics that we're really forgetting about as we build out our content strategy and our plan on the web domain. So today I have the great honor of having Jon Rivers join me. Jon Rivers is a mentor and friend of mine that I have known for those probably 10 years, 8 years, somewhere in there. And can't wait to get into this topic. Jon, why don't you do an overview on who you are?
I'm Jon Rivers. I've been in the Microsoft ecosystem for probably more years than I want to admit. I actually gave up saying how many years.
Okay.
I like to actually go by actually product version now.
Even better.
Right. So I started in the dynamic space in basically helping an ISV get into the ecosystem back when it was Exapta 2.5.
Oh,
That's quite right. So that's quite a way. And Exapta 2.5 has gone into AX and AX 2012 and F&O and SCM and all that. Before that, I was spent a lot of time in the JD Edwards space before all the acquisition went down between PeopleSoft and Oracle, which nearly killed our ISV business at that point, and that's how we got into Microsoft. Just to give you a little feel, so I spent time in different roles. So I actually trained as a developer, but I realized that was not where I wanted to go. So I ended up into consulting, help desk, running basically escalations for an ISV for many years as well. And then when we brought that product to the Microsoft space, I started working more and more with the partner community. And at that time, I started realizing I really enjoyed channel management, right? So really growing that relationship. And then I joined another ISV to actually help them grow their relationship with their partners. Basically, when I joined them, I think I was like the 22nd, 23rd person. And when I left, they were close to 100. And a few years later, they sold the business to SBS Commerce. So probably people could start putting two and two together. Yes, it was Data Masons, and they sold themselves for around 100 million. So I'm still like crazy. It's like, well, buddy. So, and then about 10 years ago, I decided to take a different direction, and I actually went into the marketing world and set up my own company at that point, helping basically partners with social media. That's where I really started, because that was an area. And I'll give you a little nugget that probably you don't even know, Sam, because I was thinking about this before this call. It's like, people probably know me now, but do they know there's a lot of younger people in the community probably don't realize how I got so really big in the social media space. I used when I was at Data Masons, I used it. I didn't really like cold calling, so I used LinkedIn ahead of time. I was doing social selling before it was even a word. And over time, I started teaching other partners and ISVs how to use social media at events like Summit and whatever else. And then Microsoft started inviting me to WPC and then basically Inspire, as it turned out. But what happened when I used to go to those events, I used to take over the whole, in the sense I would be basically posting so much content on Twitter about the event, so through the keynotes, that Twitter would shut me down for a period of time because they thought I was a spammer. So at the end of the day, and even Microsoft tried to step in and actually try to help not get me closed it down during basically when we were doing the keynotes. I was putting out so much content. No one could ever beat me. They kept changing the algorithms on the scoreboard because they used to have this board in the event that showed who was posting the most and all this. So this got changed all the time. It was always me. and I would do more than anyone else. So that's how it sort of got me prevalent. And you start to wonder, it's like, well, I don't see Jon doing as much today. No, because I'm probably so buried in day-to-day stuff. And things have changed, right? At the end of the day, I think you don't need to do volume, it's quality.
Yeah.
And that's how we got there. So let's go back to where am I now? What am I doing today? I'm actually the co-founder of a marketing agency, a full stack agency called Marketeering. We focus on empowering ERP and CRM partners to shape their future and achieve sustainable growth and profitability through the science of marketing. That's a long, I don't know. That's a good
It's a good
statement, right? Yeah. So we help partners from all sizes. We're helping like partners who are startups, right? Really get themselves out there. And then we're also helping partners on the other end of the spectrum that just don't have the bandwidth to keep up with the content creation. We do websites, we do SEO, we do social media, we do a lot of thought leadership. That's an area that we really love. And we all know that that's a big place to be at the moment. We'll put our hands up. Don't want to be stretched too thin. Yes, things like podcasts are important. And there's groups out there that are helping companies actually go out there and help with that service if you can't do it yourself. So that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, love it. I love it. I love it. We first met when I was working at PaceJet, and we had contracted with you to help teach us how to do the whole social selling and all of that. So that was my first role in the ERP space that was designated to really growing channels. I mean, I started and we were in NetSuite only practice. And by the time I left, we were on Acumatica paper and in the BC space and the GP space for the first time. So very cool to look
talking about helping. I actually helped DCI or Dynamics Communities, if everyone knows, with really early on when that was really early with their social media strategy as well.
Yeah, I love it.
Try to help as many people out there as possible. And I love the community.
Exactly. I think that's the big key too. Like before we get into our topic, I had somebody come up to me at a conference about a year ago and they're like, how do you get away with doing all of these speaking sessions when they're not about your company or they're not about the organization you work at? And I'm like, it's because I am educating a community that educates me. And that's what it's all about. And I think that's where we as Microsoft partners and Microsoft community members have the best of everything. I mean, we all come in ready to help and educate each other in the areas where we're strong and others are weak. So just a little shout out to my Microsoft friends.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that's how I started. When I was at Data Masons, at the end of the day is, yes, we did a lot of our own company, sessions, but I was out there teaching social and you think, well, okay, that's totally opposite. But what it did is it helped, one, build trust, and two, help grow the industry, that didn't know what to do. So at the end of the day, there is benefits to talk about topics which are outside of your business. I think I also look at it at the end of the day is, Sam, is it's really sort of, people don't really want to be sold to. And there is a lot of sessions out there, I hate to say it, are just always trying to sell themselves. And at the end of the day is go and educate. I mean, I gave a long spiel about me today because I've started to learn I probably need to give a little bit more. Historically, I don't share a lot of that info. I just get in and say, hey, we're getting in to talk about the topic because that's what I want to get to. Because you're going to trust me more if I talk about a topic than talking about my past and all that. It's what you give back. So, so I would say to anyone out there looking, go outside your boundaries. Don't always think about you got to talk about supply chain, EDI, payment solutions. Go and talk about something that you've done that's been really powerful. Did you build out a successful podcast, right? Exactly. Go and talk that. Teach others how to do that because the more of us that do it, the better it is. And I think this is a good lead actually into our topic about domain authority, right?
I agree. Okay, so we're going to talk about domain authority today, guys. Jon, why don't you give us an overview of what that even means? Some of our listeners are going to be, marketing pros. Some of them are going to be intermediate. And then I've got some beginners who really have no idea what domain authority means.
It's an interesting one. I was thinking about how do I talk about this it's easier to write it, I have to say,
Yeah.
than talk
Yes.
about it.
Yes.
And maybe I need to turn it into actually, that probably beats me up and says, hey, you need to turn this into a presentation and talk about that.
Exactly. Which
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I will add the link. So John actually wrote an article on LinkedIn about this in August, which it's taken me this long to get time with John on my calendar because I've been crazy. But I will link that in here and it goes over kind of all those ins and outs. So that'll be a reference for everybody. But have at it. Let us talk about what
that'll be a good one. Hopefully that'll give people even more insight. So what is domain authority and why does it matter?
Yep.
Basically, domain authority is a metric that was originally developed by Moz. Moz is one of the tools out there that actually analyze how good your website is, how it's what they basically were saying. They were trying to find a way to rank your website basically against search engines based on their algorithm, maybe taking into consider, and we'll get more into this about backlinks, the quality of your content, and overall credibility. So really, that was it in a real nutshell. Other tools like SEMrush, Ahref, other tools like that have also gone out here and actually created their own version. So at the end of the day is, right, and I'm sure you've seen it, Sam, is great. Go and look at one of those tools or have someone that can run that for you. But basically, it's telling you what is your score, right? How well are you considered to rank inside the overall from a search standpoint, right? And really, I think we're going to get into it a little bit more. I would say 90% or more of partners and ISVs have no clue what their domain authority is. And I may be wrong on that, but I think a lot of people do not know what that is. What I will also say, going back to each of those tools I mentioned will have slightly different changes on their algorithm.
Yep.
So at the end of the day, stick with one, then at least you know where you are. In the article I wrote, I actually went out and did it from a couple different ones so you could see what the difference would be. But it's part of the SEO elements that you need to be worried about, and it will help you along the road to rank yourself. Because at the end of the day, I think I would also simplify again what I just said. At the end of the day, if you're writing articles and you're not ranking, there could be reasons for that. But the higher your domain authority is, the better chance you are going to rank when you do certain things correctly.
Yeah, and I think this is where I get a lot of my consulting conversations have been around, we have all this content, but we're not getting any traffic. We're not getting any clicks. We're not getting any engagement. And then you go and look and it's like, well, you've got 100 articles with the same keywords on your website that are all focused on the same thing. So you have no page authority at that point. Therefore, your domain authority looks crazy. Can you talk a little bit about how all that works together?
How it all works together. That's a good question.
It's a strong question. It's a hard one.
It's a hard one. Yeah, it definitely is. How does it all work together? I mean, there's a lot of different elements to that, right? And I started going down to the quality of your content, right? Yep. So at the end of the day is, let's just take, you're going to write a blog. And it's actually funny because I was talking to you just before we hopped on this to record this, right? I'm writing another blog that's going to talk about deeper, like the elements to help. So for example, you're writing a blog, but really you need to get yourself ranking with that blog, which in turn helps your domain. You got to use the right keywords.
Exactly.
And how many of you out there are actually doing keyword research? and this is an interesting one. And we were having this debate internally, literally last night in Marketeering, and we constantly have it on a regular basis, is should I use the keyword on premise or on premises?
Ooh, or on-prem.
Or on-prem, right? That's another one. So technically, it is on premises, it's an on-premises ERP, right? There is an S. That is technically the official word.
Yep.
You put that into keyword research, it doesn't rank.
Because no one knows that, I feel like.
Right. So at the end of the day, so the debate comes in, right, is my content team want to write it with the correct spelling, correct grammar, and all that. I know you can twist that and play around. So, but if we use on-premises, we're never going to rank.
Exactly.
If we use on-premise, right, and I can go back to on-prem in a second, but let's just go on-premise, and we use that as one of our keywords, then that does rank. Now, what you've also got to do, look in, and this is sort of getting into a little bit of a keyword thing. As you look at these keywords, can your site rank originally for them, right? So at the end of the day we'll get a little bit more on the scoring in a second with domain authority, but basically domain authority is a score from 1 to 100. And when you look in tools like SEMrush, that's what we use, it will give you basically a KD density percentage, and it gives you a feel. So if you're scoring out on your domain authority of a 6, but a keyword to really rank for it is like a 40, you're going to have a hard time to rank for that. Right? So picking it may not be the best thing to do, but I'm not going to say you shouldn't pick it, because over time, you're going to hopefully get your site ranking. All these elements. So where I'm going with that is what we're trying to do is get that piece of content to rank based on keywords. Because how does it rank? Because people are searching and they're finding your content. They click on it, they open it. Google then likes it, or Bing likes it, or even nowadays, even AI search is coming into that. That means you're going to go up higher in the rankings on where you appear. If it's page 1, page 20, page 300, that's going to help your domain authority. That's one area. But let's go back to domain authority score. Let's just, what is that, right? Yeah, go ahead.
There's one thing I want to say before you get into what it is. As soon as you hear the score is 1 to 100, people automatically assume 100's the cornerstone goal. Like you're going to eventually get to 100. Talk about why that's never possible. That's the real thing, right? 100 is not your goal. No one can get to 100 on domain authority.
Unless you're like a LinkedIn or a Microsoft or an Acumatica or someone that's a big play based on. So yes,
even then I haven't seen it, but
no, exactly. I didn't.
Record straight, you guys. You don't have to have 100. John, tell us a little bit about what you do see in terms of those numbers and scores.
So I think where I would put this analogy first is, and I'm going to steal what I put in the article, and you'll see it, is what's a good speed, right? Is 60 mile an hour fast? Well, that depends, right? 60 mile an hour is incredibly fast in a bicycle race, right? 60 mile an hour is the standard speed on the highway. Maybe some places might be 70, and if we've got some British British folks on here, yes, I should have said motorway. I get it, but still, most motorways are 70. But at the end of the day, is 60 mile an hour too slow in a Formula One race, right? It depends. Right? Search engines work the same way. So at the end of the day, 60 could be where you have to get for some people, but for others, it may be never achievable.
Exactly.
So one of the things that we looked at is, so one of the things you want to look at is what is your competition scoring at? If you look at it and we just said, hey, you're never going to get to 100. You may not, and I would say most Dynamics partners are probably never going to get to 80 or 70. You got to look at and say, okay, what are my other competitors getting? And I also would say, when you're analyzing this, your competitors are not, so if you're a Dynamics partner or an Acumatica partner, don't just look for the opposite ERP. Look for people who are in your space. Right? So let's just take, you're a Dynamics partner. Look for other partners that are similar to you, similar to what you're doing, and see what their score is. And that's what you've got to really take. So if most of the people you've gone and looked and picked as your competitors, and they're all in the 25 range, that's the number you've got to beat.
Exactly.
So you've got to be big. Your authorities, repeat that, right, for people. Your score needs to be greater than your competitors, even if it's 10, 25, 50, whatever it is. That's the number you've got to beat.
And that's the real key there. So take notes. That'll be in the recap sizzle as the thing to remember. You just have to be your competitors and then you're good to go.
Yeah.
Again, that 100's not a cornerstone. Your cornerstone might be 20, might be 60, might be who knows. But it does come down to how you are ranking around or above your competition. That's what really matters to us.
Right. And I'll give you, at the end of the day is I'll get you there so you don't have to necessarily read the article if you just want to listen to this. So we ran a domain authority score on 100 plus Microsoft BC partners.
Are those mostly resellers? Or
yes, all partners reselling, not ISVs, and most of these were in the US.
Perfect.
51% had a Moz domain authority of 16 and 30. That's where they sat. 33% were in a range of 31 to 45.
Good for them.
And only 16% had a score under 15. So the highest domain authority in that whole research we did was 43, but the lowest was 7.
Yeah.
So an average on that was 26. Now,
interesting.
Again, right? And it's really interesting when we're in. So I also ran this through SEM. Let's go through what SEM gave because it gives a slightly different algorithm. 45% of those partners fall within the 21 to 30 range. 21 in the 1 to 10 range. 21% in the 1 to 10.
Wow.
Right? So, and there was a lot at that low end. So, I mean, I see a lot of partners way down in like, say, 1 to 5, 1 to 6. 29% were in the 11 to 20, and 5% were in the 21 to 40. So at the end of the day, if you're up in the in either of those scores, if you're up there, so if we take Moz, if your averaging score is say 26 or more, you're doing well.
Yeah.
Whereas if you take SEM and you're using that tool, if you're an 18 and some change, you're doing really well as well. So it really surprised me when I saw that, Sam. At the end of the day, I had to write the article about it because everyone is fighting for it. But I think at the end of the day is we don't think about how we could also help improve that ranking. I know we talked about keywords. That's not the only thing. There are other elements as well.
Exactly. I think before we get on those other elements, I did want to point out for the partners that are listening, remember those numbers when you're going and looking, because Jon did the work for you on people in your space doing the same thing as you, right? So start from there. Start from some of those metrics that Jon just mentioned when you're putting it into SEM Rush or whatever other tool that you use. Okay, so Jon mentioned there are some other tips to gain a better domain authority. We talked about keywords. What are some other ones that we can do to really help us build that lifelong?
Backlinks.
Yes.
Backlink, basically trying to get other people to link back to your content. Yeah. Right. That's really key. But when you look at a backlink, you want that backlink to, if possible, to come from someone that's got a stronger authority than you.
Exactly. Which you only know if you do your research and your work, right?
Right. But at the same time, remember this. And I'm basically thinking the best way to say this is do not go and buy backlinks.
No, oh my gosh, never. We don't buy anything other than services from people doing actual work, right? We don't buy lists. We don't buy links. We don't buy none of it.
Yep.
Not on this podcast.
Exactly. And also just talking about quickly going back to keywords, which I said was key. Do not keyword stuff because all these things, if you do,
oh my gosh,
what we used to do years ago to get this scoring, today you'll get penalized and you'll actually get reduced even more.
Yes.
And then you'll spend months trying to fix your website to resolve all these issues. We're going through, we're going through one client at the moment that we worked with about, 2 years maybe ago. We built their website. It was optimized for SEO. They ended up hiring a new person internally who wanted to bring their own team in. Sure. Well, we just audited it. I saw the report yesterday, and it is a disaster. And we saw a drop as literally within, I would say, 45 days of them taking over the contract. So at the end of the day, they damaged a lot of their website, and that really had a big impact. So be very careful out there. There is nothing wrong with building a new website, but also understand that sometimes you may drop for a little bit to go back up, and that's not a bad thing. And you may see that also, right? Is your domain authority, or a DA, as some of us will call it, is it will go down here and there, and it go back up, and it will fluctuate. Is where I'm trying to go with.
Yeah, because people search the internet at different times, different ways. When I was at Flowcast, we had this giant website rebuild. I think it was my second year there, and I was on the demand gen team at the time, and we're all kind of 2 weeks out from the launch of the site, and we're all like, oh, who did the sitemap? Who did the, meta tags, meta descriptions? Who's making the links for this? And me and my boss spent probably, I don't know, 60, 70 hours before this launched, getting all of that set up so that we didn't, or we had less of a risk of that domain authority changing, but also that just overall stats on the site. And actually we launched it and it was better than the original site instantly, but it's because we did the work beforehand.
Yep. Right? Sometimes that happens, right? But you have to do that heavy lifting.
It takes forever to heavy lift that.
Right. And also, at the end of the day, and there's nothing wrong with, like I said, if it coming out and going down, is then after you release that new website, go back to about 3 months, maybe 6 months, 3 to 6 months, and start reviewing all the elements to see, okay, how is your domain authority working? Did I get all the right keywords? Because that's evolving. And I'm not saying you need to audit every 5 minutes. I know there's companies out there that'll sell. I mean, we have a service around that, but basically we're monitoring. And a lot of it goes back to, I remember, again, early on in Marketeer's business start, we had a client that we were just writing content. We were then throwing it over the fence. They were doing all the publishing. We were giving them what the SEO elements and all that. They were then managing that. We weren't monitoring their site. We weren't meant to.
Yeah.
Well, 12 months later, they said, well, we're not getting much traffic from all the work. We're not really happy. It's like, okay. So we ended up doing a partial audit ourselves for free, and then we did a full one, which was paid. It turned out that every single new article that they have posted, they'd put there's a term called no index. So basically told Google not to index it, which right? So that would never show up in searches and all this stuff. And then also we'd done some editing to their web pages. Every time they'd added a new page or updated a page, they'd turn that to no index.
Oh my gosh.
So all their stuff had gone back down and nothing was happening. As soon as we made that change, things were rosy again.
Yeah, exactly.
So we started bringing in auditing all our customers and just basically what we call just watching, just making sure that there's not a drop or something not happening that should happen. So we do that for a lot of our clients from a services standpoint. We're not doing this heavy, you need to have an SEO person auditing every month. We don't do that stuff. That's not the best approach. Not for the DRP CRM space.
Totally. I in my time kind of consulting, I had one client that was like, how do we build a marketing team? Where do we start? And what do we outsource? And that's like my favorite thing to talk about, because one of my very first outsourcing obvious is SEO. We don't need a full-time person on staff doing that. But what we do need is a subject matter expert who can dedicate enough time for us to be doing well. And I need a third party to come and say some of the stuff that I might think is true, but my team is like, no, we say on premises, right? You need a third party to say, actually, no, it's on premise. And that's how you're going to rank, right?
Yep.
So you need that party.
Well, it reminds me back in my days when I was at an ISV and we did hire an outsource. And this is also to be careful, right?
Oh my gosh.
SEO company, right? Or someone SEO company, and they weren't in the ecosystem, but so again, you can probably put two into two. It was when I was at Data Mason, so they were hired to search on trying to get more traffic. Well, in the world of EDI, there's EDI document numbers like an 810 or an 850, different things, invoices, POs. Anyway, we were focused heavily on the dynamics space. We just wanted dynamics customers or prospective customers who needed EDI for dynamics. We didn't care about probably 90% of the other people looking for EDI. The trouble is that company didn't understand it. And they said, well, you need to change this as this. And I said, well, that's too broad, right? So we don't need traffic from that. Right. And to them, that didn't make sense. So just be careful that you don't always need the broad, you need more structure.
Exactly.
Right.
I think there's such a good wealth of marketing agency, marketing consultancy in this space that you need to stick in it when you're doing it. Nobody understands the ERP space like an ERP marketer.
Oh, it is challenging. And I'll tell you, I mean, social media was always my number one area, but I've taught myself over the last quite a few years now on SEO. And I tell you something, I go back to social media any day on that. It's easier to learn. SEO's got so many moving parts, and it's moving all the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll stick with my demand gen and partnerships for so many reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, I'm not an in the weeds person. I know that about myself. I'm not a big detail person.
Right.
It takes all kinds to have a marketing team. I'm the one you pull up when you're like, I need a crazy idea, but I don't know how to execute that whole idea anymore. That's what somebody else has to help me with, right?
Yeah. So going back a little bit to other things is just think of, I was generalized trying to build your score up, and was also how do you tell the search engines you're a domain expert?
Yep.
Because really, even at just writing one article is sometimes that's not going to move the needle. Even if you used all the right keywords, it's not, as you said, it's never, right? Most times it's never. Maybe we were lucky, but probably still not. Is also using, and there's different terms out there, is basically one option is calling it, sorry, I always have to get this the hub and spoke and pillar page concept.
Ooh.
Right? HubSpot have called it other things as well. Other people call it. So basically, a pillar page is sort of a key page that you want to drive traffic to. So that's your main piece. So I'm trying to think of a
demand gen girl loves the pillar page content is how I
and I know I've seen you mention it a few times, right? You have your pillar page, which is really the one that's going to convert. But off of that, you're going to build content that drives back to the pillar page.
Yep.
But it's not that in each of those articles you write. So let's say we are a CRM shop that has a care plan, right? And basically our care plan is our pillar page, and it has elements that you're going to cover. Well, make sure those elements you write more detail on a blog about. But what you want to do is make sure that links back to the care plan. The care plan links back to the blog. But each of the blogs you write, make sure that they hook to each other as well.
Yep.
What you're telling Google now is you are an expert on this topic.
Yep.
And that's what over time is going to make you stronger. So if, again, we're going to talk about CRM care plans, basically monthly maintenance, right?
Yeah.
You're going to keep on, from a focus keyword, you can only use it once, like CRM maintenance, but you're going to try to build that keyword into as many of those articles as possible to make you that expert. That's also overall going to help you increase your domain. But I think what we all do, and I know early on that I went down this road, we write about this, okay, this topic's on, we write down here, right? We go off on all these different tangents, great content, but real terms, it's not helping the site, because you really have to write a lot of content. That's why if you're like me, a lot of people you're probably following and listening to on LinkedIn, for example, maybe talking about SEO.
Yep.
A lot of them they'll have services and they'll do a whole, literally, they're not writing one or two pieces of content. They'll want to write you 30, 40 in a month.
Exactly.
Because they want to get you ranked. That's a lot of money. So at the end of the day, you can do it over time. But just understand it takes time, but you need to write all those articles. So if we're talking about migration from GP or NAV, right, and to BC, you're going to have to write a number of articles about it. You can't just write one and then move on to talking about Power Platform.
And I think the key there is the connectivity between all the pieces of content. that a lot of people miss that I want to make sure we're nailing that in. And then from a buyer perspective, it's not only helping you to do all that connectivity from a web perspective and from an SEO and domain authority, it's also helping your buyer find the information that they want all in one place. So when they land on one of those pieces, they can find the others, right?
Yes, exactly.
And in a natural flow that's humanized, right?
Yep. And then the other piece is, which there's always a debate on it, is once you write these articles, make sure you're sharing them, right? So if you're, so I've seen so many partners and ISVs do this. They write unbelievable great content, but you never know it's out there unless you came across it by chance. So you got to use social media as an area. Now, there's a lot of arguments out there on, does social media really have a connection to your scoring? I'm going to say yes.
I think it does.
Because it helps drive people to that piece of content.
Exactly.
Right? But it's how you do it. So that's one. Does email, right? Email drives people to your site. So therefore, Google's monitoring your site. It sees traffic, right? So at the end of the day, you got to think of having a plan to get people to get that content, right? So if it's hopping on a podcast and they then share out that through a mechanics and get people back to that article, that's going to help. So it's all of those things. I think the other piece that would also could have a negative, but also can have a positive if you do it right, is there is, and I don't want to mention names, but at the end of the day is there's a lot of great portals out there, but I'm seeing some people take the same content they have on their website and post it onto the portal. But they don't tell the portal that that is, I hate having to say this word, canonical. They don't set the canonical option to tell that this is actually from this site.
Exactly.
And the downside of that, all of you, and it's up to you, Sam, if you want to call out one of these, but at the end of the day is if you don't do that and they have a better score than you, a domain authority, they're going to get ranking for it and you are not going to rank for it.
Which is ERP Software Blog and MSDW and all of those friends you're posting on. We are so happy they have great domain authority, but remember that when you're posting for yourself. I'm a big proponent of no copy paste. Never copy paste, even if you use the right canonical tags, even if you do the no index, no follow, all of that stuff. No. Don't repeat yourself on the internet.
It doesn't take nowadays, it doesn't take a lot. And there's plenty of folks out there, if you don't have the bandwidth, who will rewrite that for you in a pretty cost-effective way. And now you have two strong pieces.
Exactly. Get an intern.
Right. And I will say, let's also put this straight right. We are not against any of those portals. Those portals, exactly. Those portals are needed to also help drive traffic to your site, which in turn helps your authority. So
it's all working together.
Yes. So, and I will tell you, there are some, I mean, I think I did do a one on ERP Software Blog, and they were in the 50s with, I can't remember which one it was. So they're high. So, and there's others which are high as well. I'm sure MS Dynamics World is high as well. So they will help. Be careful about the content and how you put it on any site and how it will affect. Now, I know a lot of people think about thought leadership, right? We're doing that and putting on LinkedIn. I have not seen any degrading of taking the same piece of content and putting it on LinkedIn. What I have seen is LinkedIn, because it has high authority, will rank before you do.
Exactly.
Is that a bad thing? Because if you put links into your LinkedIn article that goes back to your site, so again, let's talk about maintenance for CRM. If I put in a link back to my care plan or back to that pillar page, and I get that to rank, that means at some point I'm getting traffic. So it's not a bad thing.
Exactly.
It's actually a good thing in long run. I'll keep monitoring that, but I'm not seeing anywhere anyone reporting that it's having a degrade to
that's good
your website. So those are probably some of the things that at the end of the day is key. Probably some people are going to ask, right, Sam, is how do I get backlinks, right? It's, at the end of the day, you got to find them and try to work on people and do stuff and get other people. I think trying to incorporate guests in that also are going to elevate your articles. I mean, I know we're talking about blogs a lot, but there's more to that, but that does help a lot because it's new content.
Yeah.
So, hey, I'm going to write something about, I don't know, I know both of us love this topic, AI prompts, right? I write something about AI prompts, and I'm going to ping Sam and say, hey, Sam, would you like to be part of this article I'm writing? And then Sam's also going to go out and promote it, right? And that's going to draw traffic. And that's what you're trying to get is more traffic. Exactly. The other option that can also help you is, can you go and write, and this goes back to the portals like ERP Software Blog, the Partner Index, and all those guys is, can I write something that can go on their site, but I can have a link back in there that can also come back to a backlink. That's another area, but there's also internal backlinks that people forget, which I did sort of mention about the pillars, the hub and spoke, is interweaving, because that's also taken into consideration as well.
Exactly. And again, the buyer journey. You're giving them all the info they need all in one kind of rounded solution.
Yep.
I love
it. I think those, but really I think the key I look at is identify your competition, understand that.
Yeah.
Right. Keep analyzing. I think tops everything is building great content. Then they will come, but you got to still make sure you're doing the SEO elements. Again, I monitor, I come in and look at a lot of clients, and it's like, yeah, they have not added all the SEO elements on their piece of content. Got great content, and it's not driving because it's not put in. There's that missing piece. It's not optimized. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. I just keep on doing it. But I think just create and share and just get out there. But keep an eye on your score. It will go up if you do all the right things on over time.
Yeah, and I think we're getting at the end of our chat today. This is such a great topic. I feel like we could talk about for 5 hours. And I think we'll probably have another one as these things change and pivot throughout this crazy year that we're in. So I know a couple things that you just mentioned are kind of our recaps. So make sure you're looking at your competitors. Make sure you're using them as your cornerstone and not this giant number that's unattainable for you or not really reasonable and not really a need. Remember that you're building long-term credibility and trust using backlinks and internal links to kind of get you that interconnectivity that you will see through multiple different streams, whether it be domain authority, trust on the web, or buyer journey. Is there any final piece of advice you'd like to offer to partners who are listening today?
I think this also adds to that list that you just gave, right? If your competitors are a 5 and you're a 6, you're doing really well.
You're doing good.
You're doing good, but you could always do better, right? We could always drive more. So look at that. If you are a 4 and they're a 5, then you need some work doing. That would be definitely something. Advice to them at the end of the day is continue writing engaging content, but optimize it. Make sure your website is optimized. And there is a lot of small partners out there. Sorry, guys, but your sites don't engage, right? At the end of the day is we have to change that. If you want to drive business, you have to change. We don't live in the years where ERP sales just happened. They used to just come to us. I mean, I know we did work back then, but it's a lot harder. It's a crowded space now. If you think back in the day, did we have all the different ERP solutions we have today? No, right? And there's even some that are all built on the same platform, but they're just branded differently. There is so much choice. At the end of the day, that's an area, but I think my takeaway is your website is your foundation. If your foundation is not built correctly, it's going to crumble, right? I use it all the time. Foundation is key. Get that foundation correct. It reminds me of another conversation yesterday, talking to a startup company that's looking to offer consultants and services. So they're building like a portal that it's a little bit like AppSource, but not really AppSource. So, hey, as a consultant, I can say, I'm available to do a demo and it's going to cost you this, and you just buy it through the portal.
Yeah.
If you want a migration, they'll have that type of stuff. So I was talking to those guys and I said, great, but your foundation, what you're underneath this tweaks, but your foundation doesn't pull me in, doesn't tell me where to go. That needs to be worked on now before you keep on spending on what you're doing. So foundation. I think you need to get that right over time. You do all the adding of all the great content, you will improve your domain authority. And I think the bottom line, what do we all want to see from this? Leads, opportunities, right? So that's always the number one thing we get. But if you can't get that right, you're not going to get your leads.
Exactly.
Yep.
Couldn't agree more with all of this. This has been a really fun chat. It has been nice catching up as well.
Likewise.
I appreciate you coming on today and can't wait to do it again. Hopefully it won't take this long to schedule it this time around. But thank you so much, Jon.
Thanks for having me, Sam, and I look forward to it. And if anyone needs any more questions on this, feel free just to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. I'm out there, and I'll be happy to quickly do a quick domain authority review for you.
I love it. What an offering. Okay, I'll put it in the notes as I ship this out to the broader audience. So thanks for everybody listening today. As always, happy to bring you great content to Ambush on Air. And before I sign out, just want to say, party on. Bye, guys.